My daughter's school assumed I was poor and seated me in the last row at a parents' event, while the other mothers mocked me. Even the principal ignored me, but the moment the new school trust chairwoman's name was announced, my daughter stood up, and the entire hall turned to look at me. When I entered the school auditorium that morning, the volunteer mother standing at the door looked at my simple dress, my old but clean shoes, and my cloth bag, as though those three things were enough evidence to decide everything about me. Then, without asking my name, she said, "Your seat is in the back." Her voice was gentle, but the judgment had already been made. I walked to the last row and sat down. Two mothers I recognized from PTA meetings were seated nearby, the same women who talked about their new SUVs and their children's summer camps at every gathering, as though parenting were a competition. They looked at me, whispered something to each other, and laughed quietly enough to deny it loudly enough for me to hear. One of them, Karen, had asked me a few months earlier whether I could contribute a small amount to the school fundraiser. When I told her I would consider it later, she had tilted her head with sympathy, unaware that at that very time, I was approving documents for the school's new science wing through a family trust. I had learned long ago that money given loudly can purchase recognition. A system built quietly can create authority. My life had not always looked this way. I had sat through Thanksgiving dinners where turkey, cranberry sauce, and false smiles were served at the same table. I had once considered our Sunday trips to Costco a family tradition, and I had listened to conversations about 401(k)s and retirement plans, which my former husband discussed as though the future belonged to him alone. The truth did not arrive in a single dramatic moment. It revealed itself slowly over several months, through fabricated invoices, a separate bank account, and signatures made possible by the trust one had placed in him. That was when I understood that betrayal is not always proven by an earring found in a hotel room or on the back seat of a car. Sometimes it hides inside spreadsheets and breathes between carefully written legal terms. I did not file for divorce immediately. I collected records, met with an attorney, made copies of tax documents, and remained silent until what I possessed was no longer suspicion but the complete truth. Patience was my revenge. I allowed my husband to keep the sense of security he had been using against me, and when the right moment came, I claimed what was legally mine, not $1 more and not one right less. After the divorce, I left the large house, moved into a small townhouse, and continued driving an older car. The women in the neighborhood assumed I had lost everything, but I never corrected them. I only told my daughter Emma that some relationships end but people do not, and I allowed her to remain at the same school. I never tried to stand out there. I brought cupcakes to PTA meetings, returned field trip forms on time, and played the role of the dependable mother among women who had no idea that, after Emma went to bed, I studied reports from educational nonprofits, met with trustees, and reorganized the family trust my late grandmother had left to me. A few months before the ceremony, I learned that the school's existing trust was close to collapse because of debt and years of poor oversight. Scholarships were about to be discontinued, science programs were being reduced, and teachers' benefits were at risk. With my legal team, I prepared a proposal to settle the debt, stabilize the trust, and restructure its leadership. I had only one condition. My identity would remain confidential until the agreement was final. At the ceremony, Principal Henderson stood near the front, shaking hands with donors. He passed me twice and clearly saw me, but he did not stop, even though 3 weeks earlier he had sent a request to my legal team asking the new trust to protect both his salary and his position. I did not feel angry. The moment merely confirmed an old truth. People often do not respect the person standing before them, only the symbols surrounding that person. The program began. The children performed a song, awards were presented, and then the interim head of the school board announced that a new trust had secured the school's financial future. Scholarships would be restored, teachers' benefits would remain protected, and the arts and science programs would receive funding for the next 5 years. Applause filled the auditorium. Karen reached for her phone and the principal straightened his tie. Then the board representative announced that the chairwoman of the new trust was also present in the auditorium, and he called my full name. For several seconds, no one moved, as though everyone had heard the name but had not yet understood what it meant. Then Emma rose from her seat, turned around, and looked toward me. There was a quiet pride on her face that required no applause, and at that moment, the entire auditorium turned to look at the woman sitting in the last row. I stood and walked slowly toward the stage. The same mothers who had laughed earlier pulled their chairs back to clear a path for me. The principal extended both hands, but I shook only one of them and only for as long as courtesy required. At the microphone, I said that a school's dignity is not created by its buildings, its donors, or its front row seats. It is created by the way it treats every parent equally, even when no one knows the size of that parent's bank account. Later, Karen approached me and said she had no idea. That was the problem, I replied. You should never have needed to know. The principal apologized and I accepted his apology, but acceptance did not mean forgetting. Under the new trust, we introduced clear policies for event seating, parent access, scholarships, and staff conduct. I had no interest in humiliating any individual. I wanted to change the system that had made humiliation seem ordinary. Today Emma is in college. I still live in the same townhouse, my car is not new, and on some Sundays I still go to Costco. But I no longer feel any urgency to correct the assumptions other people make about me. Life taught me that people often mistake silence for weakness, even though some silences have already made their decision. And when they finally speak, they do not push anyone down, they simply reveal where everyone was standing all along. If this story reminded you that silence is not weakness and dignity does not depend on appearances, please like this video and subscribe to the channel for more powerful stories like this one. Your support truly means a lot and helps us continue sharing meaningful stories. Thank you so much for watching until the end.